Sometimes the loudest thing you can do for your destiny is to go quiet. We live in a world that pushes you to announce every move, to document every step, to prove to everybody that you're working towards something. But here's the truth. Not every seed can handle exposure before it's ready. Some visions God places inside of you are fragile at first. And if you rush to uncover them, you risk letting other people's words, opinions, and doubts choke the life out of what was meant to grow strong. Silence is not weakness. Silence is protection. It's the shield around your promise until the promise has roots deep enough to handle the storm. Think about how a seed grows. Nobody stands over the dirt clapping for the seed while it's buried. Nobody posts about it. Nobody celebrates it. And if you didn't know better, you'd assume nothing was happening at all. But under the soil, in that darkness, transformation is already taking place. The seed is breaking, stretching, and expanding into something it's never been before. That silent process is sacred, and it cannot be rushed. In the same way, your vision needs the silence of soil before it can ever stand in the light. Too many people lose their blessing because they speak about it too soon, exposing it to voices that were never meant to understand it. Protection doesn't always look like defense. It sometimes looks like discipline to keep quiet. And silence isn't just about holding back words. It's about holding back the urge to prove. How many times have you felt the need to explain yourself to people who weren't even qualified to handle your explanation? You want to make them see it. You want to make them believe in you. But here's the truth. They were never meant to. You don't need validation for what God has already placed inside of you. You don't need their applause to start walking toward your purpose. If they couldn't see it, that's fine. If they doubted it, that's fine. The silence is not for them. It's for you, because silence keeps you focused, and focus builds strength. See, there's something about silence that tests your trust. Can you believe in what you cannot yet see? Can you keep working when nobody knows you're working? Can you show up every day for the vision in your spirit without needing the world to clap for you? That's what separates those who dream from those who actually walk into destiny. Because silence strips away the performance and forces you to rely on discipline. Silence asks, do you want the noise of attention, or do you want the fruit of growth? You can't have both at the same time. And the danger of talking too soon is real. When you reveal a fragile vision, you invite fragile voices to tamper with it. Someone who doesn't understand where you're going can crush you with a single careless comment. Someone who envies what you're carrying can attack it before it's even born. But if you hold it in silence, you're protecting it until it can stand on its own. Silence is not secrecy, it's strategy. It's not hiding, it's nurturing. It's the wisdom to recognize that just because you're called to carry, it doesn't mean everybody is called to see it right now. And maybe you've been tempted to announce your progress because you're tired of being misunderstood. Maybe you've been working in the shadows so long you want someone to finally notice. But let me tell you, the shadows are where strength is built. The hidden places where identity is formed. Don't despise that season of silence. Don't mistake quiet for nothing happening. Just because it's silent doesn't mean it's stagnant. Something powerful is being cultivated in you. Something that can't be rushed. Something that can't be explained. Something that must be revealed in its own time. So if you find yourself in a season where you want to talk about it, pause. Ask yourself, is this for validation or is this for vision? Because when the vision is fully grown, you won't have to announce it. The fruit will announce itself. The results will speak louder than your explanations. Your silence today will be your strength tomorrow. Protect it, guard it, and remember, silence protects vision. We live in a time where noise is mistaken for progress. People think that if they're loud enough, if they post enough, if they make enough announcements about what they're doing, then it must mean something is happening. But let me tell you, noise doesn't always equal progress. You can be loud and still be lost. You can be visible and still be empty. You can look like you're moving forward, but really be standing still. Because true progress doesn't always come with a spotlight, and transformation doesn't require an audience. Real growth happens in silence, in discipline, in the places where nobody's watching and nobody's clapping. It's easy to get caught up in performing for the crowd. It feels good when people notice you, when they comment on how hard you're working, when they admire the hustle. But what happens when the clapping stops? What happens when the likes don't come? If your progress depends on their attention, then it's not real progress. It's performance. And performance can trick you into thinking you're building something solid when all you've really built is an image. Noise makes you look busy, but noise doesn't build character. Noise can get you attention, but noise won't sustain your destiny. Progress is quiet. Think about how the ocean moves. The most powerful waves don't make an announcement before they rise. They just come. That's how real growth works. It builds in silence. It builds in strength, and by the time people see it, it's undeniable. Some of the most important changes in your life won't have a soundtrack, won't have a cheering section, won't even have an audience. But just because it's quiet doesn't mean it's not happening. Don't let the absence of noise make you doubt the presence of progress. See, sometimes the noise is a distraction. The more you talk about what you're doing, the more energy you waste explaining instead of executing. The more you broadcast, the more you invite opinions from people who were never meant to shape your journey. And if you're not careful, you'll spend so much time responding to the noise that you lose focus on the work. The enemy doesn't have to stop you if he can just distract you. That's why silence is so powerful. Silence forces you to focus on what really matters. Silence keeps you centered on the assignment instead of the applause. And you know why some people love noise? Because noise creates the illusion of progress without requiring the sacrifice of progress. It's easier to talk about change than it is to actually change. It's easier to tell people what you're working on than to discipline yourself to finish it. It's easier to make noise than to do the deep, quiet, consistent work that nobody sees. But that's the difference between those who dream about it and those who live it. The dreamers keep making noise. The doers keep making progress. Let me tell you this. Progress doesn't need to announce itself because results don't lie. You don't have to scream about who you're becoming. You don't have to beg people to notice you. When the fruit comes, it will speak for itself. And the best part about silent progress is that when it finally shows, it catches people off guard. They didn't see you working. They didn't hear the noise. But suddenly you've grown, you've shifted, you've transformed, and the results are undeniable. That's the kind of progress you want. The kind that doesn't just impress for a moment, but sustains for a lifetime. So don't let yourself get trapped in the noise of needing to be seen. Don't confuse talking about it with doing it. You don't need to prove your process to anyone. What matters is that you're consistent, that you're disciplined, that you're faithful with the work even when nobody sees it. The noise might get attention today, but the silence builds a future that will stand tomorrow. Not everyone deserves access to what you're carrying. That might sound harsh, but it's the truth. Too often we give our energy, our ideas, and our hearts to people who were never meant to hold them. We invite them into spaces of our lives that were meant to be sacred, and then we wonder why we feel drained, doubted, or even betrayed. The reality is that not everyone has the capacity to handle what you're building. Not everyone has the purity to protect it. Not everyone has the faith to support it. And if you keep handing out access to the wrong people, you'll find yourself trying to grow in an environment that keeps pulling you down. Access is powerful. Who you let close to you can either push you forward or poison your progress. You can't just give access away freely. Think about your life like a home. You wouldn't leave the doors wide open for anyone to walk in and out, because not everyone walking by has good intentions. Some people come to add value, some come to celebrate, and others come only to take. If you're not discerning, you'll let people in who were never supposed to even know where you live. That's how your peace gets stolen, how your confidence gets shaken, how your vision gets clouded. It's not that everyone is bad, but not everyone is assigned to your journey. Some people are only equipped to handle one version of you, and when you start growing, they can't handle the next version. They love the you that stayed small, the you that needed their approval, the you that played it safe. But the moment you start stepping into your calling, their comfort is threatened. And if you give them access, they'll try to pull you back into the box you've outgrown. You have to recognize who has earned the right to walk with you into your next season and who only had permission for your last one. And here's the thing about access. It's not just about who's around you. It's also about who gets to speak into you. Every word that enters your spirit is a seed. And if you don't guard your access, you'll let the wrong voices plant doubt in the soil of your mind. One careless word from the wrong person can linger long enough to make you question everything you're working on. That's why you have to be careful who you let advise you, who you let influence you, who you let distract you. Protecting your access is protecting your peace, and protecting your peace is protecting your progress. It doesn't mean you stop loving people. It doesn't mean you become cold or closed off. It means you set boundaries. You decide who gets the privilege of knowing your struggles and your strategies. You decide who gets to celebrate with you in your victories. You decide who has earned the right to be trusted with your silence, your tears, your dreams. Because if you don't set those boundaries, people will drain you without even realizing it. They'll take and take until you have nothing left for yourself, and then they'll wonder why you've stopped producing fruit. You owe it to yourself and to the vision inside of you to be careful with access. Some people can cheer for you from the crowd, but they don't belong backstage. Some people can follow your journey from a distance, but they don't need to know the details. Some people were just meant to be part of a chapter, not the whole story, and that's okay. It doesn't make them bad. It just means their role was temporary. But if you confuse temporary roles with permanent ones, you'll end up giving permanent access to people who were only meant to visit. So be wise with your circle. Protect your space. Stop explaining your vision to people who were never supposed to see it. Stop lowering your standards just to keep people comfortable. Stop apologizing for protecting your peace. If they were meant to be close, they would understand. If they were meant to walk with you, they would value your boundaries. But if they can't, let them watch from a distance, because not everyone deserves access. There comes a point where you realize words aren't enough. You can explain your vision. You can defend your decisions. You can try to make people see the work you're putting in. But at the end of the day, words can only go so far. People may doubt you, misunderstand you, or dismiss you. But what they can't deny are results. When the fruit shows up, when the evidence of your grind starts to manifest, you won't have to fight for recognition. You won't have to convince anybody of what you've been building in silence. Your results will testify for you louder than any speech you could ever give. It's tempting to want to prove yourself early. It's tempting to want to clap back at the people who doubted you or brag about the sacrifices you've been making behind the scenes. But here's the truth. If you have to keep convincing people of your worth, they were never meant to see it in the first place. What you're working on will show itself in time. And when it does, the same people who questioned you will have to sit and watch as the evidence speaks for itself. You don't have to clap back. You just have to keep building. You don't have to justify yourself. You just have to keep producing. Think about how powerful it is when somebody doesn't say a word, but shows up with undeniable proof of what they've been working on. It shuts down gossip, it silences doubt, and it commands respect without you having to demand it. Results are the loudest argument. They're the kind of evidence that no critic, no hater, no skeptic can deny. You don't have to explain transformation when people can see it with their own eyes. You don't have to broadcast success when the fruit of your labor is standing right in front of them. And here's the beauty of letting results do the talking. It frees you from the exhausting cycle of needing approval. If you're always explaining, always defending, always trying to prove yourself, you're spending energy on people who may never understand you. But if you stay consistent, if you keep your head down and keep working, eventually what you produce will make the announcement for you. It's not about shouting louder. It's about standing taller. It's not about proving them wrong. It's about proving yourself faithful. Sometimes silence plus results is the best revenge. Not revenge in a bitter way, but in a way that says, you didn't believe me, but now you can't ignore me. That's the kind of power that doesn't come from arguing, but from staying committed. That's the kind of power that doesn't come from validation, but from discipline. You don't have to say much when your life becomes the evidence. People might try to argue with your words, but they can't argue with your results. And here's what makes results even more powerful. They often arrive when nobody expected them. People may not have seen the sacrifices. They may not have seen the nights you cried, the mornings you almost quit, the hours you put in when nobody was watching. They may not have seen the soil, the grind, the silence. But the moment the fruit shows up, it makes all of that invisible labor undeniable. What was hidden now becomes visible, and it speaks louder than you ever could. That's why you can't give up in the silent season. That's why you can't stop just because no one is clapping. Because when the results come, they'll say everything you couldn't. So stop wasting time trying to convince people who don't have the vision for what you're carrying. Stop rehearsing speeches to explain yourself. Stop begging for belief from those who were never meant to support you. Keep working, keep building, keep watering the seed, because when it grows, the results will silence every critic, every doubt, every distraction. Let your fruit be your voice. Let your progress be your proof. Let your results do the talking. There's a big difference between working for attention and working with discipline. One will drain you, the other will build you. One is rooted in ego, the other is rooted in growth. When you chase validation, you start performing, you shape your moves, your timing, and even your words around what people will think, around how they'll react, around whether or not they'll applaud. But when you operate in discipline, you do the work regardless of who's watching. You commit to the process, not the performance. You show up because it matters, not because somebody's clapping. Performance looks exciting, but it's fragile. It burns out fast because it's built on approval, and approval shifts with the wind. People will celebrate you one moment and criticize you the next. If your fuel is their validation, you'll find yourself constantly adjusting, constantly doubting, constantly exhausted. Discipline, on the other hand, is steady. It doesn't ask who's looking. It doesn't need applause. Discipline shows up when it's hard, when it's boring, when it's lonely. It's the quiet repetition of choosing the vision over the noise. And it's that repetition that builds strength. The truth is, discipline is not glamorous. Nobody celebrates you for saying no to distractions. Nobody gives you applause for staying consistent. Nobody claps when you sacrifice comfort for growth. But those hidden decisions, those daily choices, those quiet acts of obedience, they're what build the foundation that performance could never give you. Discipline makes you durable. Discipline makes you unshakable. Discipline makes sure that when the spotlight does come, you won't crumble under the weight of it. So many people are talented, but talent without discipline is unstable. Talent will get you noticed, but only discipline will keep you there. Talent may open a door, but discipline is what sustains you once you walk through it. Performance can create a moment, but discipline creates longevity. And that's why working in silence is so powerful. It's not about being flashy. It's about being faithful. It's about building the kind of character that doesn't need validation to keep going. And let's be real, sometimes it feels good to be noticed. It feels good when people acknowledge how hard you're working, but you can't let that good feeling become your motivation, because if validation is your fuel, what happens when nobody's clapping? What happens when the likes fade? When the support gets quiet? When the recognition doesn't come? If you've been performing, you'll burn out. But if you've been disciplined, you'll keep going, because your why wasn't applause, it was purpose. Discipline is about understanding that consistency is greater than recognition. It's about knowing that growth doesn't always make noise. It's about showing up even when it feels like nothing is happening, trusting that every silent step is stacking up into something greater. Discipline is saying, I'm not working for them, I'm working for the vision. Discipline is staying true when nobody's watching. Discipline is protecting the seed until it bears fruit. And the fruit that comes from discipline is sweeter than the thrill that comes from performance. Because when you've built something on discipline, it's real, it's stable. It's not dependent on who approves or who doesn't. It can weather storms. It can endure doubt. It can withstand pressure. Performance may sparkle for a moment, but discipline creates something that lasts. And when the results finally show, you don't just have success, you have sustainability. So stop trying to perform for people who don't even have the capacity to validate you properly. Stop exhausting yourself with explanations and displays. Stop chasing the high of being noticed. Instead, lean into discipline. Commit to the process. Let your silence shape you. Let your consistency strengthen you. Because in the end, performance fades, but discipline builds forever. There is a reason why some seasons of your life feel hidden, why it feels like you're working hard but no one notices, why it feels like your effort is invisible. That hidden place isn't punishment, it's preparation. Silence is where God strengthens you for what's coming next. It's where He strips away the need for applause and builds the endurance you'll need when the spotlight finally finds you. Because the truth is, the spotlight will expose everything you didn't deal with in the shadows. If you don't let silence refine you, the stage will crush you. We often think being overlooked means we aren't ready or we aren't enough, but being hidden is actually mercy. It's protection. It's giving you time to build muscles in private that you're going to need in public. Think about it. If you were revealed too soon, without the maturity, without the patience, without the strength, the very thing you prayed for could break you. The silent seasons may frustrate you, but they're forming you. They are developing the character, the wisdom, and the resilience you need for when the weight of your calling is on display. There's power in the unseen. The tree doesn't start in the sky. It starts underground. Roots grow long before branches ever stretch. And those roots don't look glamorous. They don't get photographed. They don't get praised. But they are what hold the tree steady when storms come. That's what your silent season is doing. It's growing your roots. Nobody may see it. Nobody may clap for it. But one day when the storm comes and you're still standing, they'll realize that the silence wasn't wasted. It was necessary. The danger of skipping the silent season is that you mistake attention for anointing. Just because people see you doesn't mean you're ready. Just because you're noticed doesn't mean you're prepared. But when you've done the hidden work, when you've allowed the silence to teach you discipline, when you've allowed the quiet to build your character, then when the light shines on you, you won't be shaken. You'll be rooted, anchored, grounded in something deeper than applause. And let me tell you, this silence is where intimacy with yourself is built. It's where you learn who you are when nobody's watching. It's where you wrestle with your doubts, where you face your weaknesses, where you confront the parts of you that the world doesn't see. If you don't face those things in private, they'll sabotage you in public. But when you take the time to deal with them in silence, you step onto the stage stronger, wiser, and more secure. There is a confidence that comes from knowing you were forged in silence. It's not arrogance, it's assurance. You don't have to perform, you don't have to prove, because you know what it took to get here. You know the tears nobody saw. You know the sacrifices nobody clapped for. You know the late nights, the early mornings, the prayers whispered in the dark. That's why silence is powerful. It gives you a story nobody can erase, a strength nobody can take, a testimony nobody can argue with. And when the time comes for you to be revealed, you'll realize the silence wasn't wasted at all. Every hidden moment was building the stamina you would need to stand in the light. Every unseen sacrifice was carving out the foundation for your assignment. Every quiet, yes, was preparing you for the moment your voice would be heard. That's why you can't despise the silent season. You can't rush it. You can't skip it, because what you cultivate in silence is what will sustain you in the spotlight. So embrace the quiet. Embrace the hidden. Embrace the silence that feels frustrating, but is forming you. Because when it's your time, the stage won't intimidate you, the pressure won't crush you, the light won't blind you. You'll stand steady, strong, unshakable, because you let silence build you for the stage.